Today's Top 5 Wednesday is your top 5 bookish habits, so let's do this. Hi everybody, it's Lydia here. So this top 5 is a little bit different. There are no specific books involved, but it's basically just all about the things that you do as a book lover, which you know you probably shouldn't do, basically. I haven't listed these in any particular order, although some of them I'm sure are worse than others, but there we go. So my first bookish habit revolves around bookmarks. These are just a handful of the many bookmarks which I own, but I never use them. I don't know about you, but when I start reading, I always forget the bookmark. I go and sit down on my bed and get comfy and read for a good few hours, and then I get to the end of the chunk that I've read and suddenly realise that I don't have a bookmark to hand, and so I pick up the nearest scrap of paper I can possibly find and use that instead. So I have tons and tons of bookmarks lying around that are perfectly good bookmarks, but I never use them. My books are just filled with cinema tickets and scraps of paper and receipts and things like that, and I never use the proper bookmarks. It's just because I always forget to pick up the bookmarks before I read, and I never remember. No matter how hard I try, I never remember the bookmark. My second bookish habit is probably one which a lot of booktubers and a lot of book lovers in general are probably prone to, and that is just buying all the books and then never getting around to actually reading them. I have so many books on my TBR pile which I haven't read, and I have them, I've bought them, and at the time I thought, oh god, I really want to read that book, but I buy it along with 5 other books and never get around to reading it. This year I am trying to cut down on this, and I have been really good so far, but I know that at some point I'm going to splurge and just have a massive book buying session and just end up with a lot more books that are just going to sit on my TBR. My third bookish habit is in regards to people kind of telling me, oh, you should read that book, or you'd really love that book, and I always think at the time, oh yeah, I should really read that book, and then I never get around to reading it, or I take months and months and months to read it, and people are always saying, oh, did you ever read that book? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, sorry. I'm really bad at it. And the thing is as well, is if I'd found that book on my own, I probably would have read it at the time that I found it, but because I don't know what it is, but because someone else has suggested it, for some reason it just goes out of my head, and I just think, oh yeah, I'll read that at some point, and I never get around to it. So I really should stop doing that. My fourth bookish habit is actually something which I kind of thought about recently, and that is rereading books when I have loads of other books on my TBR pile. I'm really bad at this, but partly it's because I want to reread books before sequels come out if they're a part of the series, so I just don't read the books that I should be reading because I haven't actually read them and I could absolutely love, and instead I just reread books that I may not have overly enjoyed the first time round, but there's a second book coming out so I have to reread it. Logic. And finally, my fifth bookish habit is probably the worst of them all, and that is judging a book by its cover. I tell myself I don't do this, and I really try not to do this, but I can't help it. There are some books which just have beautiful covers, and the book itself might be terrible, but the cover is just so beautiful that I look at it and think, yeah, I need to have that book, I need to read that book, and it will probably end up being awful, but the cover is just so amazing that I judge it and I think, oh yeah, that looks a really good book. I won't even have read the synopsis and I'll look at the back and think, yep, need that book. It's terrible. I know I'm not the only one who does this, so don't even pretend like you don't do this. We all do this. We have so many like tags that revolve around what books look like, so we clearly all do this. And we really need to stop, but it's so difficult because they make books look so pretty these days. How can you possibly stop judging them by the cover if they look that gorgeous? So that's it for this week's top 5. Let me know in the comments below if you also suffer from these bookish habits, because I know I can't be the only one who does. But that's it for me today. I will see you again soon. Until then, bye!